Welcome back to Ike Garzali's Autos. We are in the last throes of removing this inner CV joint cup out of the front diff. If you watched my last video, you saw I kept calling it a transfer case because I didn't know what I was looking at, and I was thinking four-wheel drive for a Tesla Model 3 Performance, but we are not talking about a transfer case. We are talking about a dedicated front and rear motor with a diff attached to the front motor. Now, since the axle, if you recall, was sheared off, the cup was stuck in the diff. And we worked really hard to pull it. And we're going to go through some of the tools real fast and then see if we could get it out with a homemade tool. So the first thing I tried was this right here. Pickle fork wedged in between the CV joint and the diff case, and then trying to hammer it out, impact it out. That did nothing for me. Unfortunately, it should have worked. And the next thing I tried was, where did I put this slide hammer? Next thing I tried was this puppy. So thanks to YouTube, I found this guy. This is a Maddox slide hammer kit, and it actually has the correct. If you come in on this, you can see it says vice grip, the original. So if you have an original vice grip, you could back out the screw, and this adapter comes with the Maddox 5-pound slide hammer. Now, we drilled a hole through the cup in the inner CV joint, and this vice grip then is really slick. You can tighten and loosen it from way outside the car, lock in, and then slide your way to removing the cup. You can see all this damage on the slide hammer. I actually put my air hammer's chisel point on it, trying to get enough force because the thing just wasn't moving. This might work for you, and no dig on Maddox or Harbor Freight or vice grips. This thing stayed on, just couldn't make enough force for me. And I think the reason the pickle fork failed and the slide hammer failed is very simple. The whole axle got torqued when the car hit the curb. And so the axle was wedged in and the circlip was locked or shredded or half shredded. So with that theory, I hooked up the come-along. And I chained. I'm pretty lucky I have these giant steel girders holding up retaining walls on my driveway. So I pulled the car out after I got it running, and I chained around a steel girder. This thing is going nowhere. It's like 40 feet, 20 feet in the ground or something. So I hooked my come-along into the steel girder, and then through the hole I drilled in the CV joint, locked it into the car, started ratcheting. And what did that do? It just pulled the whole car to the steel girder. We put it on 2 jack stands, 3 jack stands, a floor jack. We thought about chaining the opposite side of the car to another vehicle to hold it in place. If I had steel girders on both sides, I'd do that. And I probably could have popped it out. But it just wasn't budging. So this morning, I got under the car and decided to try to spin the whole drive line around and bang with the pickle fork as I tried and sort of, I'd call it centipede out, or kind of wiggle the thing out of its hole, hoping that the circlip was just happening to be in the one spot I was trying to pull from. So I kept rotating the axle and pushing from different places. Now, none of that worked, but then I decided to take a steel rod, put it inside the cup, and see if I had moved the up to the circlip and if I was backed against the circlip at all. And the answer was the whole CV joint slid back in about 1/4 of an inch. So I'm like, oh wow, I am right up against the circlip. It is not angled, it is not wedged, that's not my problem. So now what you're looking at is a custom tool I decided to make, because I decided that my problem is I just can't get enough force on this dang thing. Was about to curse here. And so now we're going to see if this custom tool actually will get this thing out of its home. So the basic idea is to bend a piece of flat iron so that I have something to hit. So I have all the tools necessary. I actually heated up a piece of flat iron, put a bend in it, drilled a hole through it with my step bit, and now I have a hole in the flat iron that lines up to the hole in the CV joint, and I took a bolt and bolted the flat iron to the CV joint. So what you're looking at now is a piece, the flat iron I was describing. Here's the 90 degree. I put in it with the torch. I just grabbed it with some channel locks after I got it cherry red and then put a bend in it. That's why I've got these metalworking gloves with me instead of just work gloves on. Put this bend in it. I contemplated welding a strike plate here out of like a 1/4 inch or something, so I had a nice good surface to hit really hard from. Now if we follow this flat iron back, you see the hole in the CV joint, and the washers, the bolt, and we're locked in to this CV. So now, if you get out from under the car, what I could do... Oh, by the way, this wheelbarrow is here is because I was terrified that the come-along would somehow drop the car or snap something and send all this braided metal flying at my body, and I had images in my head of skin peeling off or you know, what do you call it, like shrapnel wounds or things like that, like a grenade. So thanks to my neighbor who gave me this wine barrel, sorry. I actually sat behind this and like a little coward kind of ratcheted on things in case something popped somewhere. So now you can see I'm out in the middle of my wheel well. I've got good swing on this thing, and we're going to try the last thing we could figure out before we have to throw this damn car on a tow rig and get it to a professional mechanic who maybe has another trick. But I can tell you right now, I texted my pro mechanic friend, he's a master mechanic, and he said, Ari, all I do is a slide hammer. And I already know the slide hammer is not going to work. So this is our last effort. Oh my God! Hallelujah, it's out! Son of a, oh my God. I'm gonna patent this tool. That was hella easy to remove. You see this thing? Now you can get a good look at the hole we drilled with our stepper bit in the cup, and then the hole we drilled in the flat iron. And this little sucker just would not come out. This is amazing.
Thank you.